When this system is out of balance, it could lead to feelings of burnout, adrenal fatigue, and a sense of emotional flatness that's hard to explain. You may feel fine, but you're really just surviving, not thriving. Does this sound familiar to you? I know this has happened to me many times over. So, what can you do about it? Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're diving into a hormone that has a huge impact on our day to day lives, often without us even realizing it. There is so much information out there and emphasis on managing insulin. Insulin is very important. However, there is a hormone that can wreak havoc when it's out of control and even affect our weight loss efforts. Today's topic is all about cortisol. Some of us think of it as the stress hormone. I'm your host, Heather Hewett, double board certified naturopath, clinical nutritionist, and somatic trauma therapy certified. Please like and subscribe and comment for the algorithm. Now, you might be thinking, cortisol, isn't that just something that spikes when I'm stressed? Well, yes, but that's overly simplistic. It's more complex than that. Cortisol affects your emotions, your weight, and your sleep, your ability to focus, and even your long term mental health. There's been so much emphasis put on insulin, which is important when it comes to weight loss and metabolic health. But cortisol is the forgotten hormone. It is very critical. And today you might hear some information that resonates with you. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but still feeling anxious, exhausted, or stuck in a cycle with your body or brain, then this episode is for you. So let's break this down. Let's start with the basics. What is cortisol anyway? Again, it's a hormone produced by your adrenal glands. Now, the adrenal glands are located and sit on top of your kidneys. Their job is to help you respond to stress. Think of it as your body's built-in alarm system. When your brain perceives a threat, real or imagined, it sends a signal to pump out cortisol. This gives you a burst of energy, raises your blood sugar, sharpens your focus, all the things that you need in a crisis. And let's face it, it helps us get out of bed in the morning. But here's the thing. Our bodies were designed for occasional stress, like running for our lives. Cortisol helps that. But when it comes to juggling a lot of emails, traffic, social pressure, trauma, sleep deprivation, and drinking several cups of caffeine a day, that's when it becomes a problem. Because when cortisol stays elevated over time, it starts to mess with your body and your mind. Well, how does cortisol affect our emotions? Let's talk about the emotional side first. High cortisol can make you feel on edge. You might not notice it, but there's more irritability that happens. You may have anxiety, mood swings, or even just a sense of emotional numbness. That's because chronic stress reshapes or remodels the brain, especially areas like the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. This is responsible for regulating mood and decision making. Ever felt overwhelmed and reactive and then judged yourself for not handling it better? Well, that's not a character flaw. It could be high cortisol. And the worst part, it can become a feedback loop or become a pattern. More stress equals more cortisol, which makes it harder to regulate your emotions, which leads to more stress. And round we go, like on a hamster wheel. Well, what about cortisol when it comes to weight? Well, let's talk about weight because cortisol plays a huge role here. When cortisol is high, your body thinks it's in danger. So it starts to store fat, especially around the abdomen. This is a protective mechanism for your body. It also, you could feel like you're having a lot of cravings, and in particular for quick energy like sugar, carbs, and in particular, not whole food carbs, but refined carbohydrate and salty snacks. And guess what? Even if you're eating healthy or quote unquote clean, chronic stress can still sabotage your metabolism. It slows down digestion. And when we have this chronic stress, we go into that sympathetic part of the nervous system, which is that fight, flight, or fright part of the nervous system, where we always feel up here and uptight. And when we're in that state, instead of being in parasympathetic rest or digest, we're not really digesting our food. So it also messes with our hunger hormones like ghrelin and leptin. It makes it harder to burn fat or build muscle. So have you ever thought to yourself, why am I not losing weight even though I'm eating clean and exercising? It could be it's your cortisol levels working against you. Well, how does cortisol affect our mental health? Well, let's zoom out. When we have healthy cortisol levels in the morning, we're able to get out of bed and focus and get things done. But when we have unhealthy cortisol levels or a problem with cortisol, it's going to cause some long-term mental health effects. Chronically high cortisol is linked to anxiety, depression, brain fog, and even memory problems. We might start having relationship problems too, because maybe we find ourselves overreacting to things instead of connecting. It disrupts your sleep cycles, which then makes emotional regulation even harder. It also reduces levels of serotonin and dopamine. When cortisol goes up, serotonin and dopamine can come down, in particular serotonin, which makes us feel more at peace, calm, and happy. These are the feel-good neurotransmitters that can help us feel calm. Serotonin helps us feel calm. Dopamine helps us feel focused and motivated. And over time, when this system is out of balance, it could lead to feelings of burnout, adrenal fatigue, and a sense of emotional flatness that's hard to explain. You may feel fine, but you're really just surviving, not thriving. Does this sound familiar to you? I know this has happened to me many times over. So, what can you do about it? Okay, now the good news, because yes, there is good news. The the body is incredibly resilient, and there are so many ways to support cortisol balance. Here are just a few. One is sleep. We have to prioritize a number of hours for sleep, getting to bed by a certain time, waking up at a certain time. The circadian rhythm is really important. And cortisol naturally lowers in the evening, or is supposed to. I work with a lot of clients, and I see when they do adrenal testing, the saliva adrenal test, we find that there is inverted cortisol, which means there's lower cortisol in the morning and is very high at night. This affects sleep. This contributes to cravings at night. And cortisol should be highest in the morning and lowest at night. This is when we're supposed to be in that rest and digest state, and we're going to have deep, great sleep. So it's supposed to naturally lower, but good news is we can get that stabilized back. Nutrition is another way. that is important to stabilize blood sugar. Having regular meals. So please do not skip meals, in particular breakfast, because as I mentioned, cortisol is to be the highest in the morning. And in particular, middle aged women and older, this can be problematic if you skip breakfast. According to Dr. Stacy Sims, whom I happen to like very much, she follows the science and research. We need to have something in the morning. So, yes, some of us don't feel like eating, and that's okay. If you're having a morning cup of coffee, you can use a high quality protein powder to put into your coffee. Not when it's hot, but you're making a cold drink. I find that to be very helpful for a lot of my clients. So you're not going hours in the morning without eating and making the cortisol issue worse. So please get some type of um, quality sustenance in the morning. And then there's movement. Exercise like walking or stretching actually lowers cortisol. Too much high intensity training can spike it. So if we're already having an issue with this, high intensity training is good, but we don't want to do it every day. And we maybe not several times a week, maybe once or twice a week in the beginning as we're trying to get this under control. Another modality is mindfulness, using deep breathing, meditation, and journaling, even a quiet walk in nature while being mindful, not being on your phone, can calm the nervous system and tell your brain, hey, we are safe, I am okay, I am secure. Connection, and I'm talking meaningful connection, not connection on social media, but meaningful connection with others. Because the research shows that emotional support lowers cortisol. So does laughter. So laugh as much as you can. Hugging someone also is very beneficial. Research shows when you hug someone for 20 seconds or more, you release the hormone called oxytocin. This is the connection hormone. It is very calming and it tells your body and nervous system that you are safe. Having boundaries is also really important. Not only boundaries with others, and it does help to protect your energy, but having boundaries around yourself, turning screens off at night by a certain time, not being up, watching TV and on screens late at night, having boundaries around your sleep wake cycle and around people that maybe drain your energy. Our nervous system was not designed to be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's okay to say no. Now, I want to add, because this may sound overwhelming, you don't need to do everything at once. I love James Clear with Atomic Habits. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, and I love his perspective of the 1% change. Just one small change every day makes a huge difference. Even 5 minutes of deep breathing a day can make a difference. We live in a society of all or nothing, and that all or nothing contributes to a higher stress reaction. But taking one thing at a time can help and make a huge difference. I also want to address something called the cortisol awakening response, or CAR. I'm going to just use the acronym CAR as I'm talking about this. But the cortisol awakening response, a natural surge in cortisol levels after waking, can be associated with symptoms like anxiety, mood swings, and sleep disturbances, but also with physical symptoms like increased appetite and abdominal weight gain. Here's a more detailed explanation. Well, what is CAR, or the cortisol awakening response? It's a natural physiological process where cortisol levels rise shortly after waking up. This increase is thought to prepare the body for the day and is part of the body's circadian rhythm. Cortisol, often called the stress hormone, plays a role in regulating various bodily functions, including metabolism, blood pressure, and immune response. And symptoms of a dysfunctional car could be affecting us mentally, emotionally, with anxiety, especially in the morning. We may wake up really anxious. We may have mood swings. We could be irritable or depressed, difficulty concentrating, or feeling mentally foggy. We just have a hard time focusing. Physically, it can affect us by we could wake up with some serious cravings, especially for sugar, refined sugar in particular. We may have abdominal weight gain, sleep disturbances. We may wake up at 4 and then not fall back to sleep at 6 and we need to get up. Could be insomnia or difficulty falling asleep, having low energy and fatigue, muscle weakness, skin changes, bruises, stretch marks. Then there's factors influencing CAR. Stress, both psychological and physical chronic conditions like depression, anxiety, or other mood disorders, sleep deprivation, or poor sleep quality. It could be shift work that we have. I used to work at and have to get up at 2 in the morning when I had a newspaper agency. And wow, did it mess with my cortisol levels. Not only did it put me in perimenopause and I was in my 20s, but also I remember the incredible cravings I had for donuts and refined sugar. And I remember putting on 20, 30 pounds in a few months. So think about that as well. If you work at night, this could be contributing. Having irregular sleep schedules. I mentioned how circadian rhythm is really important. Rhythms run our body and brain. And in order for us to feel stable and safe, we need to have this steady rhythm. So having a steady schedule that's consistent around sleep can really help this condition. Then there are certain medical conditions or medications that can also contribute to it. Well, when to seek help? If you experience these symptoms in a persistent way and they're affecting your quality of life, like anxiety, mood swings, or sleep problems, especially in the morning, it's important to see your healthcare professional. Go to them, tell them what's going on so you can get the needed help and you're not just suffering. And they may be able to determine if your having CAR is contributing to these symptoms. They may recommend appropriate strategies for managing cortisol levels and overall well-being. I also kind of want to right now take a pause and talk about, I mentioned briefly my story with one particular time period in my life, getting up in the middle of the night for work, did that for 11 years. But I also noticed that I still have this issue sometimes, in particular after maybe a day of a lot of running around and packing things all in one day, which I have a tendency to do, and I'm working on boundaries around that. So I wanted to use what works for me. Deep breathing has helped me in the morning when I notice that. But I'm going to be honest with you, when I get up, I am rocking and moving. I'm not saying I'm a morning person or I love getting up in the mornings, but I just have a lot going on in my schedule. I don't have time to actually take my time. So what has helped me is using the doTERRA oil balance. It has helped me create a calming, serene environment in the morning. Also, I put it in a diffuser and diffuse it at times in the morning, which helps. So while I'm getting everybody's green smoothies together and making those, it can help provide a calming atmosphere for me, as well as taking a drop or two and putting it on my wrist and inhaling it in the morning. This gives the experience of grounding and feeling safe for me, and it keeps me in that parasympathetic response. Because let's face it, we want to be motivated and focused in the morning, but at the same time, we want to be calm and we want a serene environment. I hate that feeling of rushing around and feeling like everything is chaotic. That's when I get really revved up and irritable. So I've been using this doTERRA oil balance, and it's been fantastic in recommending it to my clients. So that might be something you consider doing as well. Now, there are other things that we can use. I mentioned deep breathing, even if it's for a couple of minutes in the morning, and there are breathing apps that can walk you through it. There's something else called morning pages, where you just write for 5 to 15 minutes and you're just unapologetically writing what comes up without judgment. And you don't have to read it back. You're just writing and dumping everything out. Now, if you have time to do that in the morning, you can try that. It may work. It may set the tone for the day. Then there's also vagal toning. On these podcasts, I normally share something that helps with putting someone back into parasympathetic response, that rest and digest state. That's really important, because the more tone we have of the vagus nerve, the more we're able to regulate ourselves. Which brings me to a somatic exercise. There's one that I learned not too long ago that has been wonderful. And I actually have a client that has had a hard time sometimes with some of the vagal toning exercises that I use with getting into that rest and digest state. And using this particular exercise has been really easy for her to use. And she's able to get over to that parasympathetic state pretty easily. So it involves pressing on an acupressure point using your thumb. So we're going to use our two fingers here and we're going to press on the point on our thumb, on the top of our thumbnail for those that are listening. This can help calm the mind and reduce stress. And we just want to just pump with our fingers, just a pumping squeeze. And doing this not only boosts circulation, according to traditional Chinese medicine, but can also trigger a release of endorphins, which are the body's natural painkillers. Also elevates mood at the same time. So you can do this for a minute. Then you can squeeze the sides of the thumb like this. And you can do that also for a minute. Now, for me, this squeezing the sides of the thumb is more impactful for me. And you'll notice different tools that I share with you. Some things will work quicker than others. And what you're looking for is that swallow, sigh, or yawn. When that happens, we know that we're in that parasympathetic response. So these are a few tools that you can use that can help slow you down in the morning. Remember, we're trying to create an environment of calm, not stress and tension. And pay attention in the morning to your breathing. Are you tensing your body up as you're running around? I do that. A tense body can't be calm at the same time. So to wrap things up, cortisol isn't the enemy. We need cortisol. It's just when it gets to be too high and out of control, that is when we have a problem. Because cortisol is the body's way to protect us. But when we're out of balance, it can really wreak havoc on our emotions, our weight, and our mental health. The key is learning how to work with your body, not against it. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And if this episode resonated with you, take a moment to share it with someone who might need it and save it. And remember, your body is always communicating with you. It has its own secret language. And when you listen with curiosity and love and compassion, instead of judgment, you create a space for healing. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're doing better than you think. Remember to embrace the change and discover the beauty of transformation and embrace your inner butterfly. Bye for now.